morning, everyone. I am Andrea Toussaint, and I am the manager of the Leadership Development Unit here at Mind. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome all of you to this another leadership development seminar, webinar, which is organized by the Management Institute for National Development. Now, in these leadership development webinars, we explore leadership issues and discuss practical solutions to address them. So we are really happy to have those of you who continue to join us from time to time. And we extend a special welcome to those of you who are attending for the very first time. Is there anyone attending for the very first time today? Just use the raise hand feature so that we can identify you. All right, I'm seeing some hands. Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome to you all. Welcome to those of you who are joining us from Jamaica. And we also have persons who have registered from the Caribbean islands. We're happy to have you. We have persons from Canada, also from outside of, and from other countries. So we're really, really happy to have this mix of persons on the platform this morning. The last time we met in a forum like this, we were planning for the Mind Leadership Development Conference, and it was successfully held in July. So let me use this opportunity to thank those of you who supported Mind in this venture. Today, Ambassador Joan Underwood will delve deeper into a topic in which she presented at the conference, centered around people engagement. Today, she will focus on the theme, employee engagement, why it is your business. So this matter of employee engagement is a matter for all of us to be involved in. So we thank you, Ambassador Underwood, for making yourself available to support Mind in this and many other initiatives. And we look forward to your thought-provoking, practical, and engaging session. I invite all our participants to give us your full attention. I know it can be very tempting to be doing other things, but we would really love you to be fully engaged in this session. Your mic will be muted, but during the question and answer section, you will get the opportunity to ask questions. Now, during the webinar, you may use the chat feature to communicate with us. So we look forward to an engaging time together. I now invite Mrs. Natasha Gordon-Miller, Director of the Public Service Capability Development Branch here at Mind, to bring opening remarks. Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, Andrea, and good morning, my fellow public sector employees. On behalf of our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Ruby Brown, and myself, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our first of many webinars for this financial year, focusing on a topic that lies at the heart of organizational success, employee engagement. As the Director of Public Service Capability Development, I'm entrusted with the responsibility of ensuring that our public sector leaders have access to diverse and impactful learning opportunities. I'm honored to open today's discussion, which will center on the crucial role each of us plays in fostering a culture of engagement within our teams, ministries, departments, and agencies. Our objectives for this session are clear and purposeful. We aim to discuss current levels of employee engagement, both in Jamaica and globally, to explore the primary drivers of employee engagement, highlight why employee engagement is your business, and challenge each of you to respond to the call to action. In today's rapidly changing world of work, employee engagement is no longer just the domain of human resources. It has evolved into a shared responsibility that touches every individual regardless of title or role, and influences not only our productivity, but also the overall well-being of our teams. When employees are genuinely engaged, they bring passion, creativity, and dedication to their work, driving excellence across every sector of our ministries, departments, and agencies. The theme for this webinar, Employee Engagement, Why It's Your Business, invites us to all reflect deeply on our personal responsibility in building and sustaining engagement. Whether you are leading yourself or leading with others, the question is not if we should be involved in employee engagement, but how we can each contribute to fostering a more motivated, driven, and engaging workforce. Today's discussion, led by our esteemed speaker, Ambassador Joan Underwood, promises to offer practical strategies and actionable insights that can help us to achieve this goal. So, as we begin this important session, I encourage you to fully engage with our facilitator and with each other. Let's take full advantage of this opportunity to learn, to share your ideas, and to leave today not only with new information, but with a renewed commitment to making employee engagement a lived reality in our NDAs. Thank you once again for joining us, and I look forward to a thought-provoking, enriching, and inspiring session.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Miller, for those opening remarks. All right, so I'm pleased at this time to introduce our presenter. She's Ambassador Joan Underwood, a part of our associate faculty here at Maine. Ambassador Underwood is the author of The Manager's First Aid Kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges. Manager's First Aid Kit has been described by Business View Caribbean as a true gem and quintessential guide for newcomers to succeed in a managerial capacity. The book has also been resonating with entrepreneurs and more experienced managers, one of whom had this to say: "I have become a more focused leader. It has enabled me to be a better decision maker personally and professionally." Ambassador Underwood's body of published work also includes a series of technical papers published by the Inter-American Development Bank on the state of the civil service in 6 Caribbean countries, including Jamaica. Joan describes herself as a purpose-driven talent development specialist who is guided by core values of accountability, execution, and professionalism as she carries out her organizational mission of serving small to medium-sized enterprises, governments, and regional institutions, helping them develop high-performance individuals, teams, and strategies. Her professional designations include Master Trainer, Professional Coach, Certified Change Practitioner, and Certified HROD Practitioner. And she is the past president of the HR Management Association of Barbados. Ambassador Underwood's contribution to the field of HR within the Caribbean led to her selection as the 2023 Regional HR Champion during the HR Management Association of Trinidad and Tobago's Legacy Awards, and she's the first individual to receive this award. In addition to her work in coaching, management, and policy in both the public and private sectors, Joan served for 7.5 years as Antigua and Barbuda's non-resident ambassador to several Latin American countries, including the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela. She also served as the Chief Implementation Officer in the Office of Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Winston Baldwin Spencer. Joan's leadership journey is featured in Championing Women's Leaders as one of the 27 case studies of outstanding women leaders in the Commonwealth. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Ambassador Joan Underwood.
Thank you so very much, Andrea, and all of my colleagues at Mind. Always a pleasure to collaborate with you. And welcome. Welcome to our webinar today, where we're going to be focusing on employee engagement, why it's your business. And the session has been designed to be interactive, informative, and action-oriented. So let's dive right in with the action. So I invite you to pull out your phones, go ahead and scan the QR code that you see on your screen and answer the question that will pop up. What's your primary reason for joining us today? What do you hope to accomplish, to learn as a result of participating in this webinar? So go ahead, scan the QR code, type in your response, and we'll do a bit of a check-in. And it will help me to ensure that I do, in fact, satisfy your needs today. Okay, self-improvement. That is very important for each of us to commit to continuous learning and development. Learning about current leadership challenges. Someone finds the topic intriguing. Right? I want to be a transformational leader. Good for you, right? To be on top of staff morale in my company and self-improvement. I think we'll be able to take both of those to gain greater insights on this topic, to hear from industry players. Okay, and you're going to hear from industry players, not just from within the region, but I'm going to be sharing with you research from Gallup, from Deloitte, from the Carnegie Institute. So we certainly will be able to take that box for you. All right, let's see so many more answers coming in. Let's see what else we can find here. Self-improvement. Okay. All right, so I see people have compelling reasons for being here, some personal, some more oriented towards the organization, and we will be able to address all of what I'm seeing thus far. Okay, definitely have the latest trends for you. We have the latest Gallup research. I'm going to be sharing some of those statistics with you. Okay, creating a better work environment. Okay, great. And I see they keep coming in. Excellent, excellent. All right, so this has been a good pulse check for me so that I know what I need to do to meet your expectations. All right, so let's look at our specific objectives for our time together this morning. And you would have heard this from Natasha, but to make sure we're all on the same page, we're going to look at the current levels of employee engagement in Jamaica specifically, and then we're also going to look at some global statistics. We're going to explore what are the primary drivers, what are the things that foster employee engagement. Then we'll make the link in terms of why employee engagement is your business. And we will close out with a call to action in terms of what you are willing to commit to doing or doing differently to help drive employee engagement in your neck of the woods. So let's start with Gallup's most recent published research, which is the State of the Global Workplace for 2024. So it's published in 2024, but the data would actually be from 2023. So what you're seeing before you is a reproduction of the graph from that report. And I'll draw your attention in the first instance to the lower trend line. And what this represents is the level of employee engagement globally, the average level of employee engagement globally. And yes, you're seeing right, it's 23%. Less than a quarter of workers globally identify as being engaged. That's a very worrisome statistic. Now, if you look a little further up, you will see a green trend line. And what that represents is the percentage, the average of employee engagement for the best practice organizations. Look at the difference, the space, the spread between those two trend lines. And what that is telling us is that you see here 70%, the difference between the level of engagement in the best practice organizations and the global average is almost 50 percentage points, 47 percentage points to be specific. So whether you're on this trend line at 23% or you're up here, that's your business. And there are specific things that you can do to ensure that you are more likely to be on this trend line than on the lower one. So let's dive a little bit deeper. What exactly is employee engagement? What are we talking about? So I have on the screen different definitions for you. But the bottom line is that employee engagement is the likelihood to exert discretionary effort, to go above and beyond. And I love this graph. I think it communicates so effectively what exactly we mean by discretionary effort. So you'll notice here that the x-axis is time, whereas the y-axis reflects performance. So if we start with the bottom trend line, the one in red, you will see that over time, let's say someone has just joined your organization, so their performance, will be at the lower end as they come in, learn the ropes, how you do things, and get more comfortable in the role. Then you expect their performance to increase to the point where it crosses the threshold of your minimum requirements. So you expect your people to meet and exceed the minimum requirements. We refer to this as the have to do curve. This is what they need to do to keep the job, right? The minimum and a bit above that. Now, the second trend line, the black trend line, what we're seeing here is the want to do curve. So the difference between the have to do curve and the want to do curve is referred to as discretionary effort. And the more engaged an individual is, the more likely they are to be in this upper trend line and trending upwards. So emotional commitment to the organization and its goals, that will drive performance. That will drive engagement. So, promised you to share some statistics from Jamaica. So, Jamaica is the only English-speaking Caribbean country that has been included in the Gallup research over the past, since 2018. So what we have displayed in this graph would be Jamaica's 3-year rolling average starting in 2018 and coming all the way up to 2022. So let's start with this middle line here. So this is the trend line for employees, the percentage of employees who identify as being engaged. Now remember, the global average currently stands at 23%. We see that Jamaica is a bit above that, with their most recent 3-year average being just under 30%. So kudos to Jamaica for that. But it's not exactly something that we want to be celebrating about, because if we're only at 30%, remember where the best practice organizations were, 70%. So there's still significant room for improvement. There is good news in that, though, because you see Jamaica has been trending up from the 2018 to 2020 average, which was 25.5%, inched up just a touch, less than 1 percentage point for the 2019-2021 average. And now we're doing a bit better here at just under 30%. So that's engaged. Let's look at this next trend line, the one at the top. This is for employees identifying as not engaged. All right, and I'll make a distinction between not engaged and actively disengaged, but we'll get to actively disengaged in a moment. So we see that the percentage of employees in the Jamaican workforce, both public and private sector, identifying as not engaged is more than half. All right. Started out just under 57%, and it has gone down a bit to about 54%. But again, more than half of people are just, kind of indifferent. They're there, but they're not in the space where they feel like putting out that discretionary effort. And then this is the really worrisome trend. These people are actively disengaged. These employees show up in your workplace. They don't want to be there. They're not committed to you, to the work, or to anything else, but they're not leaving. Okay? They will leave for more money, or if they think, when I said they're not leaving, they're there and doing damage while they're there. All right. So Jamaica is a little bit below the global average here as well, but we're still looking at just under 16% of the people in your workplace showing up as actively disengaged. And these individuals show up with toxic behavior. And that toxic behavior can infect other people in the workplace, and it can help to bring down the morale in the workplace. All right. So what does that look like in terms of the feelings that your people are experiencing? So this is a very interesting graphic. There's a lot of information. We're going to break it down. All right, so these are some of the emotions that are commonly manifesting amongst staff. People are feeling stressed, they're feeling angry, they're worried, they're sad, they're lonely. What Gallup has done here in this graphic is they've made the distinction between the prevalence of these emotions in staff who identify as engaged, as not engaged, as actively disengaged, and for good measure, they've also included people who are unemployed. So let's look at this line by line, starting with the stress. So amongst engaged employees who participated in the 2023 Gallup poll, 34%, just over a third of employees who identified as being engaged reported feeling stressed within the previous 24 hours. So the question was, within the last 24 hours, have you experienced? And they listed the emotions. 1/3 of engaged employees said, yeah, within the past day, I felt stressed. For those who are not engaged, you see that number goes up to 40%. But look at the actively engaged people. More than half of the folks who identified as being disengaged, actively disengaged, said they felt stressed out within the past 24 hours. Now compare that to the unemployed. So these actively disengaged people who are on your job, they're more stressed out than people who don't have any work, than people who don't have income and want it. And these people are in your workplace. Similar pattern with anger. Engaged employees, 17%, 1/7, say that they felt angry within the last 24 hours. For those who are not engaged, a marginal increase, 19% compared to 17%. But look at the huge jump with actively disengaged. They were almost twice as likely to be angry within the past 24 hours as engaged employees. And again, they're angrier than people who don't have a job. And I remind you, they're in your workplace. What about worry? All right, 30% of engaged employees said, yeah, I've been worried within the past 24 hours. Even more for the not engaged, 36%. Again, look at these actively disengaged people. More than half of them, that they're worried. They're worried, they're angry, they're stressed, and they're in your workplace. They're more sad, okay? 34% compared to 17%. So they're twice as sad. They're lonely, okay? So you can't ignore the fact that you have these people in your workplace and they're feeling the things that they're feeling because they're bringing their entire selves to the job. And remember, I said that they can infect, bring some toxicity into the work environment. They are more likely to do that than employees who are engaged, than employees who are not engaged. So, what are your thoughts about this? gonna open up, and you can either use the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature and weigh in and share what your response reaction is to the data that I've shared thus far about employee engagement trends globally and in Jamaica specifically, because we have that data available. And so my colleagues, my co-hosts, are going to help me to monitor the chat. Ashley, yes, go ahead, please. Can we unmute Ashley so that she can share?
Thank you. Yes. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Joan, for this so interesting and worrisome at the same time. And I wonder, my question would be, how do you recommend that leaders encourage people who are feeling these negative feelings to express them? How do we find those people that are in our workplace so we can help them?
Great question. And it begins with relationship, because we have to establish that connection with our people so that they get comfortable in opening us up to us, so that we know what's going on. Because the first step in solving the problem is being aware that there is a problem. And we're going to delve into, a little later in the presentation, we're going to talk about what specifically can be done. So thank you for that question, Ashley. And please, I encourage you to weigh in when we get to that section in terms of other ideas on what we can do as leaders. So Jackie Mo Cox.
Morning, everybody. Hi, Joan.
Hi.
Yes, and yes, insightful and also concerning when looking at these results. And I think it's probably tied into your response to Ashley. How, a lot of times in the workplace, you hear, leave your concerns at home. Don't bring your stuff in here. When you get to the door, you're here to do the people's work. Just suck it up and do the work. However, here it is, we're seeing that a lot of what we're feeling emotionally, that might be things that we are responding to because of circumstances outside of the workplace is impacting employee engagement. So how do we reconcile those two? And I assume you're going to develop that as we go on. But that's the first thing that comes to my mind in terms of the fact that persons tend to say you're supposed to subdivide your emotions from when you show up to work. And then how do you do so? Then this is impacting your engagement. So thank you. I look forward to hearing.
Yeah, there's a saying, wherever you go, there you are. It is so true, right? Because you show up in totality wherever you go. All right, Sandra Senior Brown.
Pleasant morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Joan, for this insightful piece of information, this last piece of information about disengaged employees and that they have brought everything into the workplace. Sometimes you make certain observations. You have the training and you have the know-how, but in terms of employee relations and organizational behavior, you are not really sometimes handling certain situations frontally. You observe the challenges and so on, and you make certain endeavors or overtures to handle it. But information is key. Training is key, and strategies are very important in the workplace to ensure that you handle those who are disengaged, because they can actually derail a lot of things. So I am very, very anxious to hear now you going forward what you have to offer us in terms of solutions. And I have some in my head here as well, since you've actually opened my eyes to certain things. So thank you so much.
Great. Looking forward to hearing from you. Is there anything coming up in the chat, Andrea, that we need to take in? And I see that we still have a couple hands up. I just wanted to see if there are any comments in the chat that we can bring into the discourse.
All right, definitely, Joan. There are several. I'll read a few of them. It's one says the negative experiences are high for the engaged staff too. I find that quite interesting.
Yeah.
And another says engaged persons show less percentage of their emotions. Another says the information makes sense. Persons who are angry, stressed, and worried will not want to extend any effort, especially if they think the job or the workplace is causing these feelings. And another says sometimes employee feels like they are robot in nature because they start to believe that management just want their work to be done with no concern about their personal need. And I'll just read one more and then we can continue. It says, it is concerning that the actively disengaged individuals are not in a better emotional state.
Yeah.
How do we identify them and what can we do as co-workers to make a difference? Thanks so much for these comments. Sorry, we can't read all of them.
I know. And that last comment made me think of Dr. Ruby Brown's amazing work on professional hurt. And if the term is not familiar to you, I encourage you to contact the folks at Mind and ask them to share that information with you. Dr. Brown has done some fantastic work on professional hurt because we have people within our organizations who have been hurt and they may be actively disengaged and they feel unseen, unheard, and undervalued. Okay, a lot more to cover. So as much as I'm enjoying the interaction, I'm going to move on. And someone actually shared a similar observation in the chat. So let's look at how Jamaica compares to the rest of the world in terms of these statistics about emotions. So on average, the Jamaican worker is more sad than the global average, 26% versus 22%. They're less stressed, but look, the level is still more than a third, 35% versus 41%. And I don't know what's going on here, but our colleagues in Jamaica are showing up as being more angry than the global average. So here's my question. On any given day, how likely are we to see discretionary effort and service excellence when this is how our people feel? And this is the comment that came out in the chat. People are sad, they're stressed, they're indifferent, they're angry. That's not where discretionary effort comes from. So we've looked at the current situation in Jamaica and in globally. So let's look at what drives engagement. So pull your phones out again. And some of you, no, let me refresh this because this is the second question. You're seeing the answers from the first one. What do you think are the primary drivers of employee engagement? Okay. So let me refresh this. All right, so go ahead, scan the QR code, and you're going to answer the new question now with the primary drivers of engagement. If you're unable to scan, you can also use the URL you see at the top of your screen. So that's menti.com, menti.com. And then you enter the code 24893699, and that will take you to the same poll. So drivers of engagement, staff recognition and staff needs. Okay. Sense of inclusiveness. Okay, so in the interest of time, while you go ahead and put in your answers, I'm going to share with you some results from the published research. And we start with a white paper from Dale Carnegie Training. And they found that there were 3 primary drivers: the relationship with your immediate supervisor, the level of your belief in senior leadership, and the extent to which you have pride in working for the company. All right, so that's according to Dale Carnegie. Let's see what Deloitte found. For Deloitte, there were 5 primary drivers that they identified. Meaningful work. So not just busy work that you come in and you don't have a sense of purpose, right? When the work is meaningful, employees tend to be more engaged. When management is hands-on, and please do not equate hands-on with micromanagement. But you know, you have some bosses that the only time you see them is when they come to make noise on you. All right, not those. All right, so hands-on management. Having a positive work environment, that drives engagement. Trust in leadership, and when there are opportunities for growth. So that's research from Deloitte. Okay, so why is this your business? So again, you know how people show up when they're disengaged, when they're not engaged. We heard about the emotions that they're experiencing. So what impact do you think this will have on the work, the environment, the productivity, etc.? What do you think are some performance outcomes that are going to be affected by the level to which your people are engaged? So go ahead and scan the code and start typing in your responses. In the event that you don't have a smartphone at your disposal right now, you can also use the chat box to share your thoughts with us, and we'll check there. All right, so I see the responses are coming in. All right. Okay, improve quality of work, better collaboration, increase sales, absolutely. Inclusiveness, yes. Okay. Yes, level of performance, the relationships, the quality of the environment. Okay, so you know this, you are living this. And I'm going to share the data with you, because what you may find a bit surprising is the magnitude of the impact. You've identified the variables that are going to be impacted. Let's see when we start quantifying the impact, if there are any surprises there for you. So yes, you absolutely get it. You absolutely get it. All of these things, yes. All right, let's look at the, just before I share the research, I have a short, very short video here from Gallup, which summarizes why it's important, why you should make it your business. So we'll listen to this short, listen and watch a short video and talk about it at the back end. Here we go.
When employees are engaged, when they have those engagement elements going right in their lives, they have higher autonomy, they have higher ownership for the organization, they put in more discretionary effort. We found even in past recessions, engagement was an even stronger predictor of performance, and so there's an element of resiliency. Employees who are engaged are more resilient. They fight through tough times with you. They keep your organization going at a high level even during those tough times, and they thrive during the good times, even at a faster pace than your competition. So I would think of employee engagement as a competitive advantage, as something that says something about your employment brand and your culture. When you have an engaging culture, we all know what happens inside organizations leaves organizations very quickly now through social media and other forms. People look to their friends for advice on where to work, and they look to all kinds of outlets technologically. And so your employment brand, having an authentic employment brand, starts with having an engaging work environment where people have their performance going right. They feel like they're performing and developing and a part of an important, significant culture. that's making a difference.
And in the webinar today, we have people from the public sector, we have people from the private sector. What we're discussing here is relevant in both environments. All right, so let's look at what Gallup found to be the top 9 outcomes that are linked to employee engagement. So customer ratings, you can think of that as customer satisfaction. Profitability, of course, that's if we're looking at the private sector. Productivity, employee turnover, even the incidence of safety issues is dependent on the level of engagement. Shrinkage or theft, absenteeism, and in healthcare institutions, the number of patient safety incidents is impacted by the level of engagement. So think about the next time that you go to JPH or any other hospital, and you are relying on people who may or may not be engaged to provide medical treatment for you. Which would you rather have? This is why it's your business. Quality defects also impacted by the level of engagement. So I told you that we were going to quantify it. So let's break it down. Let's look at the magnitude of the difference. So it's between the top 25% performing organizations and the bottom 25% based on the level of engagement. So they have fewer negative outcomes. So the top 25% of organizations globally, in terms of employee engagement, they have 70% less absenteeism when compared to the bottom 25%. You hear that? 78% less absenteeism with the organizations where the employees are most engaged compared to where they're least engaged. Turnover, 21% less turnover in sectors where turnover is high. So there's some types of job that you just know the turnover is high, right? Because of the nature of the work. It's more temporary. But even within that, the organizations with the best engagement, their turnover is high, is lower. And generally now, not for the high turnover ones, but in general, 51% less turnover associated with highly engaged employees. So fewer negative outcomes and more positive outcomes. So when we're looking at customer engagement, the top 25% of organizations had 10% more customer engagement, 17% more productivity when you count it as sales, and 13% more productivity when we're looking at non-sales parameters. Now, which organization can afford to forego a 10% gain in customer engagement, a 17% gain in sales, a 13% gain in productivity? That's why it's your business. Greater organizational level success. So again, 23% more profitability. Who wants to leave that value unclaimed on the table? We spoke about employee well-being before when we looked at the emotions that we see showing up in the workplace. Look at this, 68% improvement in employee well-being for the top 25% compared to the bottom 25%. And 22% more organizational citizenship. So I'm going to leave this graphic there for you to really let the data soak in. And as you look at it, go ahead and raise your hand, use the chat, and share your thoughts. Know that you see the magnitude of the impact of employee engagement on hardcore business KPIs. Yes, Sandra. So Sandra Senior Brown would like to share her thoughts.
Okay, so I am thinking that this is indicating we need to deal with the problem frontally. We need to be fully aware of the situation and determined to put in place plans and to assess the situation and then to put things in place to try and remedy all that is involved. Because if not, and it goes unresolved, then all our corporate plans or strategic plans and so on will not be able to meet them because the employee is not on board, and then they go and impact others as well. And then you have persons, before you know it, persons are barely delivering what they feel that they can, and it goes on. So, as you are pointing out, these data, we need to be strategic to deal with the problem. And right, hi Carmelita, that's one of my former employees. She's giving me a shout out. So this is equipping us now to say, handle the situation. Look at all the things that we need to put in place to motivate the employees to have that personal relationship as best as possible, and all the things that we need to put in to, to deal with the problem.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. All right. So Sandra has joined me with the call to action. Kareem Bent. Can we unmute Kareem, please? All right, Kareem. All right, I don't know what's happening with
Hi, good morning. Just being unmuted.
Okay.
Just want to chime in with Sandra also, because just looking at it from an organizational level, where our focus or the focus is mainly on work KPIs and output as it relates to work. And when it comes on to the employees, you are supposed to show the result irrespective of your emotions. And sometimes expressed emotions, they are intentional or they're unintentional. Sometimes they don't even know that you are demonstrating such negative emotions because it has been, or the culture or the settings of the organization kind of evoke that emotion that sometimes you just express it involuntarily. And those kind of emotions, sometimes the response maybe from management or from other employees is, if you do not like the job, why not leave? It's a case where you should leave rather than let us try and deal with situations on the job and to get everybody on board so that you can get the desired result. The thing is that persons would have invested their life and livelihood in a particular job. So it is very hard for them to just get up and leave, even though they're feeling some negative emotions towards the job. They still do care about the job, which is why some of the time they stay. And if we're looking in the Jamaican context, the atmosphere is not so conducive for you to walk out of a job like that. So sometimes I think persons just stay. And those negative emotions, what they do, what you'd say, contaminate or infest the organization. And that was the sole purpose of the person's emotion. So I just think that everybody, this is very, very important, and it is an eye-opener, and top management and everybody need to see these things and see how it is that everybody should work collaboratively to ensure that the image and everything of the organization is portrayed in a positive way. Those are just my few words.
Thank you so much. And I encourage you to use this data in conversations with others, because there's a tendency to think, man, that's something for HR to worry about. This shows you it's everybody's business, as Natasha said it at the beginning. So I see my friend and colleague, Eldon Blackman, and have something from Eldon to share with you later on in the webinar. Eldon.
Hi, good afternoon, or is it morning? Still morning. Morning.
Morning
Yeah,
in Jamaica, afternoon for us.
all right. So thanks for sharing this information and data with us, Joan. And at this point, so one question that pops up in my mind is, when I see this, how does this fit into the discussion of take care of your employees so that they can take care of your customers, or do we focus on customer care over employee care?
All
That's the
right.
discussion. That's my question is, how do we see this impacting that discussion?
Oh Lord, you peeped my card. All right, that's exactly where we're going. Because when we talk about service excellence, how can you get excellent service from people who are disengaged? Right? So we got to first take care of our people. All right, I see there's still some hands up. Let's take one more and then we have to move on, because we still have to start getting to the solution part of it. So I see Charmaine Gordon with a raised hand. Charmaine?
Good morning.
Hi.
Thank you. Right. I like the discussion that is going on, and I'm sure a lot of us are having different ideas now, especially those who are in HR. But I like the point that you raised in saying that it has to be everybody's business. Everybody has to be, and when I say everybody, those persons with at the management level, not just the staff, because the staff always know what they want and what should be done, right? But it has to be a buy-in across the management levels in the organization. And another thing I think that will really impact even the interventions is also the organizational culture. Because in organizations, especially in the public sector, where you have high stratification as one of the key criteria of an organizational culture, and exclusivity, it's challenging for HR if you don't have buy-in to engage some of these disengaged employees. Employees are disengaged for different reasons. Sometimes it is not emanating from the organization. There are times when employees, because they are keen on their family, they will pour their all into the development of their children, and so they feel left behind, right? It's a sacrifice they make, and they find themselves sometimes in a position where they can't take up opportunities in the organization, and therefore they get left behind. There are different ways to engage different kinds of employees. You have to know your employees, know what is affecting them, know their circumstances, so that you can reach out to them. Some of these employees, they know that they may not be able to go up for another position because they want to change role or they want to move up, but they have skills, they have, abilities, talents that they can contribute to the organization in different ways. They can be event planners, they can join your team, they can help to be a part of your social networking. So we have to get to know our employees and know their strong points and utilize their strong points so we can have them engage in different ways, not just in terms of promotional appointments and things like those within the organization.
Absolutely. So we come back to the answer that I gave to Ashley in terms of relationship. So,
Joan, before
yes,
you move on, I'd just like to read one comment here. It says,
sure.
how do you tap into your employee without the employee thinking you are trying to be friends? How do you keep it employee-employee? I suppose like employee-employer relationship.
Yeah. Okay. So, topic for another webinar. And also, it's addressed in my book in terms of what are the relationship building blocks. So you have to establish, and the responsibility really is yours as the leader to set the tone for those relationships, including boundaries. All right, but like I said, topic for another webinar. So in due course, hopefully, Mind will tackle that for you. All right, so while this refers specifically to a GOJ policy, I encourage everyone, because I know we have people from throughout the region and internationally on the webinar. I think there's benefit in this discussion for everyone, not just folks who operate within the Jamaican Public Service. So back in 2022, the government of Jamaica published their Service Excellence Policy. It's part of their public sector modernization program. So the next poll, I'm going to ask only Jamaicans, either public service or private service, but only the Jamaicans or those living in Jamaica to answer this next poll, because you're there on the ground. I want to know how aware are you of this initiative? Okay, so go ahead and respond to that. I'm going to step away for a brief moment. I'll be right back while you fill in this form.
All right, just checking. A person's able to access the poll? If not, you could probably just indicate yes or no, whether you are aware of the policy. If you're unable to access the poll, just say whether you're aware or not aware in chat. All right, just a quick feedback. Are you able to access the poll? Just to repeat, if you're not able to, just indicate I'm aware or I'm not aware in chat if you're not able to access the poll.
Okay, so we see that we have a mix here of persons being very well informed, as well as those who can vaguely recall, and we even have folks who have never heard of it. So I'd like to share with you some of the specifics of this policy initiative. So we see that the government of Jamaica has determined that the entire public service is to be organized around the needs of those that they serve. That the government of Jamaica is directly accountable to the citizens and others whom they serve, and that they are prepared to guarantee the level of service in terms of quality, accessibility, convenience, ease of use, integrated so that you don't have to go to a million government agencies to get one thing done, that they would be responsive, cost effective, so you're not using up all of government revenue in salaries and wages and then don't have money to spend on other things. Okay? This is a commitment that's contained within this policy. They go on to define service excellence as the delivery of services against established standards in a manner which effectively satisfies customers' needs and provides value to our citizens. So I'm broadening the conversation now. So I'm not just talking to the folks in the Jamaican Public Service or Jamaican citizens, but I'm talking to everyone on the webinar now. When you look at this definition of service excellence, I challenge you to see that it is equally relevant to your business, whether you're in the public sector or in the private sector. You should have service standards. You should be concerned about satisfying your customer or your client needs. You should be concerned about providing value to the people that you serve. Now, the Jamaican Service Excellence Policy has 5 core principles. And again, I put it to you that these principles are universal. So citizen-centered, or if you're in the private sector and you are not serving all citizenry, but you have specific customers, then customer-centered, customer-focused, that there should be integrity and transparency, that you should have respect for the rights of the persons that you serve, and that your leadership needs to be both accountable and committed. So again, these principles are equally applicable in public and private sector, in Jamaica and throughout the Caribbean and internationally. I want to flag for special mention the accountability piece. Okay, because that's a real game changer. And one of the criticisms of the public service, not just in Jamaica, but globally, has been a lack of accountability. All right, so how do we move the needle on that? And I love this definition of accountability as the glue that ties commitment to results. Because anybody can say that they're going to do anything, right? But it's the accountability that then can take you from a statement of commitment to results. Now, what does that look like in practical terms? And so I love this table, and those of you who have had other engagements with me, you may have seen this already, so I apologize for the repetition, but I feel so strongly about this and helping people to understand, because we tend to conflate blame and accountability. And once we can throw somebody under the bus, then we figure mission accomplished. That's not what accountability is, that's blame. All right, so let's look at compare and contrast blame and accountability. So with a culture of blame, you believe that people are the problem. Whereas in a culture of accountability, you see your people as potential problem solvers. And think for a moment about how that difference in belief system, that difference in mindset, how it causes you to show up differently as you interact with your people. So it goes back to the quality of the relationships that you build with your people, if you're viewing them as problems, or if you're compared to if you're viewing them as potential problem solvers. In a culture of blame, you believe that problems are headaches. In a culture of accountability, we see problems as an opportunity for learning. Culture of blame, we think if we admit our mistakes, it's going to be career limiting. Oh boy, they're going to mark me, and this is going to be the end of my opportunity for upward mobility. In a culture of accountability, you send a clear message to your people that we are all learning here, so mistakes will be made. That's okay, as long as we learn from them and move forward with that new learning. A culture of blame focuses on who's wrong. It focuses on finding fault. It focuses on punishing. Whereas a culture of accountability focuses not on who is wrong, but on what is wrong. It focuses not on fault finding, but on fact finding. It focuses not on punishing your people, but on improving future results. And so, what can we expect in terms of outputs and outcomes in a culture of blame versus a culture of accountability? If you have a culture of blame, people are going to hide the problems rather than shining a light on the problem and then examining them to find solutions. A culture of blame is about naming and shaming, whereas a culture of accountability is about learning from your mistakes. A culture of blame is a hotbed of distrust, whereas in a culture of accountability, you foster trust. So again, let's get some quick feedback on the contrast that we're seeing here. And as you're looking on it, think about which of these two cultures are you more likely to have engagement. Yes, Cavell. So can we open the mic for Cavell Sacha?
Hi, John.
Hi.
It would definitely be the culture of accountability, because you're espousing the owning it as well as empowering them, and that inclusive culture where as the new paradigm says, you're failing forward. So you're learning from the failures, and you're saying to them, listen, this is your stake in the game. So yes, fail, but learn from the failure, because it is only letting us be better. And I think this is a powerful box. Very powerful.
Okay, and it's in my book. So you see why I keep using it over and over. Yes. Usain Bolt, as talented as he is, he had to put in the work. And there were times when he didn't perform the way he wanted to perform. He didn't say, okay, I'm done with the running thing. Right? How do you learn from those mistakes? All right. Next in the queue with the raised hands, please. Andrea, we have up next we have any more hands up or anything in the chat? I see Delori Staple Chambers. Hope I'm pronouncing it.
Right. Thank you. Are you hearing me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Right. So I'm saying that I really appreciate this box as well, but I want to pick up on something that you mentioned. Just in passing, you talk about the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so relevant. This whole mindset of gratitude, I think, is missing from the whole discussion in terms of trying to create an environment where people can be engaged. I find that when you let your people know how much they mean to you as a leader, and how grateful you are for what they bring to the table, that also stimulates this whole wanting to be engaged. They will stay back for you. They will go beyond. They will volunteer to do more than is required, to get the work done, and they will feel a part of the whole value and the vision, the value proposition of the organization, and the vision in terms of achieving that. So that's something, I don't know if you'll get to that in your discussion, but this whole mindset of gratitude, I believe, is another.
Okay. Ties right back in with the quality of relationships that you have with your people.
Right.
Okay. So thank you for that. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm watching the time and realizing that I may need to speed things up a little bit. Okay. All right. So coming back to the service excellence policy, they have two pillars. One is people engagement and the other is performance excellence. So I'm just putting things in context in terms of showing you how this is your business. Now, we're going to buttress that up with the research, data from the research. So according to Gallup, 70% of team engagement is directly attributable to the manager. You hear that? 70%. That's why it's your business. Okay? Why is that relationship so important? Again, the research has shown us that when leaders and managers are trusted, when their employees find them inspirational, those employees find meaning in their work, they feel like they are part of something important and valuable, and they perform better. Look at the statistic here. Employees who strongly agree that they trust the leadership of their organization, they are 4 times as likely to be engaged. You see how you get from the 23% global average up to the 70% best practice average? By being a trustworthy leader, by being a leader who inspires your people. Another thing that has been shown is that when you adopt a coach approach versus a boss approach to leading your team, that drives engagement. So what is the distinction between these two approaches? A manager or boss spends more time speaking and being directive, whereas in the coach approach, you spend more time listening and asking questions. And I know the government of Jamaica, one of your initiatives is to transition to a performance coaching culture. This is setting up the government of Jamaica to be on that upper trend line with the 70% engagement versus down on the 23%, even though you're closer to 30 right now. But you don't want to be at the global average. You want to be at the average of the best practice organization. The bosses make quick assumptions. The coaches take time to investigate and observe. The bosses tell people what to do. They give them the plan and just expect them to line up like good soldiers and follow it. Whereas the coach approach, you are supporting your employees in developing the plan. So there's a greater sense of ownership, greater willingness to put in discretionary effort to go above and beyond. Okay, so which column do you spend most of your time in? Is it in the boss approach or in the coach leader approach? Okay. If you remember one thing coming out of today, remember this in terms of why it's your business. Engaged managers produce more engaged employees, and more engaged employees produce service excellence. Now, only 3 in 10 managers globally are engaged. That's from Gallup. All right, they looked at 200,000 manager-led teams, and this is their finding. So where are you? Are you in the 3 or are you in the 7? Where do you want to be? In the 3 to bring that number up? Or are you going to be content to stay where you are? This is your business. So how do we create? So we're moving from the data, from analysis and critical thinking. We're moving now into action. How do we create and maintain a culture of service or performance excellence? And that's whether you're in the public service or you're in the private sector. All right, so I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to go through it really quickly, so I apologize in advance, so I'm conscious of the time. All right, so I've developed a model which I call my high performance superstructure. But before you can build a superstructure, you have to start with a foundation. So what is the foundation for high performance? It's a strong mission, a cohesive vision, clear and achievable goals, and core values that foster a shared sense of purpose. Once you have that foundation, it's only then that you can begin to build the superstructure. And what is that superstructure? It starts with psychological safety. Okay? Because you can't have optimal levels of engagement if your people don't feel safe. And you're not going to get employee satisfaction without first having the psychological safety, without having that engagement, and then you get to the satisfaction. So let's drill down a bit more on the components. So for your foundation, you need to be very clear on what your purpose is. And you need unity of purpose so that everybody gets it. They understand the why. And once you are clear on that purpose, you then cascade it down into your strategic plans with your, action plans. And every ministry is supposed to have a strategic plan, which aligns with Vision 2030. So it cascades down from your medium-term framework, etc. All right? That's the foundation. Once you have that in place, then you need to focus on starting to put up your superstructure. So the ground floor of your superstructure now is the psychological safety. And according to the work of Timothy Clark, there are 4 levels in that psychological safety. The first level is inclusion safety. Your people need to feel that they are truly valued members of the team. And I don't just give them a name tag and a uniform, but your actions need to really embrace them so that they know, listen, it's not an A team and a B team and I'm not in the right group, right? But that we're all in this together. We are all valued, appreciated. Comes back to the gratitude that was mentioned earlier. They need that as the very first, the most fundamental level of psychological safety. They then need to know that it's safe to learn on the job, to learn by doing. Yes, when you bring them into the organization, you expect them to have a certain baseline level of qualifications, experience, etc. But you also need to create space and safety for them to learn while doing. And part of how we do this as leaders is by ourselves being vulnerable and sharing that we too are on a learning curve. So you don't expect anyone to have all the answers. You don't expect people to be perfect, but you expect them to show up as being committed and willing to learn. Go back to that table that we looked at with blame versus accountability. So that's the second level of safety, learner safety. The next level up now is contributor safety. And coming back to gratitude again, your contribution is valued and appreciated, every single one of you. You are part of the team and we value your presence and your contribution to the team. All right? Not all horses don't run alike, so you don't expect everybody to be exactly the same. You need them to meet the performance standards, right? However, you have to be invested in helping them to grow and develop in the role. And the fourth and final level of safety now, according to the Timothy Clark model, is challenger safety. So if we as leaders show up as feeling that we're the sage on the stage, we have all the answers, nobody, when I talk, no dog, their back, that doesn't give your people challenger safety. That doesn't give them permission to question, to challenge. And, in some organizations, they will say, oh, innovation is one of our core values. But if you dare rock the boat, you're going to find out That doesn't provide challenger safety. You don't get innovation if your people don't feel safe to ask a question, to challenge the status quo. Could we do this better? Your people need to be safe to ask questions like that. So in terms of what's required for there to be psychological safety, you need your people to all believe in this team, we can take some risks. It's okay. We're not going to blow the place up, but we're going to push the envelope a bit in the quest to be better, to do better, to get to that service excellence. You need your people to be confident that you're not going to embarrass them if they try something and it doesn't quite land the way that they had hoped it would. That they can ask a question, they can admit that they don't know, that they don't understand. And you need trust and respect for your people to feel safe. And as leaders, we have to lead from in front, lead by example. So we have to show up as being trustworthy, and we have to show up trusting the people, trusting our people. So when we have psychological safety in such teams, you give and receive feedback without becoming defensive. You raise issues and concerns rather than looking the other way. You can disagree without being disagreeable. You can ask for clarification without being afraid that if I show vulnerability, it's going to come back to haunt me. You can ask for help, again, being vulnerable. You can offer solutions and you can admit errors. Now, I've had with some of my corporate clients push back when we start talking about psychological safety because they misinterpret it as being a trade-off between performance and safety. It's not either or, it's and. So when we have high performance standards and psychological safety, our people operate in a learning zone. So we're not compromising our outputs. We're making it safe for people to bring their best selves and their best efforts to the table so that we expand on the quality of work and the volume of work that gets done. And so we reap the benefits in terms of efficiency gains, productivity gains, morale. Because if you don't have to walk around thinking you have a target on your back all the time, then that frees you up to learn, to innovate, to adapt. All right, so that's the first floor is the psychological safety. The second floor is engagement. By now, this diagram is familiar to you. So here's the business case that you can use with the people higher up the organizational chart. If you're an HR practitioner, with the non-HR people to persuade them that this is their business. Here's it, and I put it out in a line-by-line logical progression. Employee engagement predicts a number of key business performance outcomes, and you can tell them what they are. Next line, managers are largely responsible for the conditions that drive engagement. Conclusion, therefore, by understanding the drivers of employee engagement and ensuring that managers have the right talent and commitment to deliver on those drivers, organizations can build employee engagement, thereby improving business performance outcomes. And I encourage you to screenshot this because this is the theory of change. This is how you get to service excellence and sustain it. More evidence. I come from a scientific background, so I like to present the data to back up what I'm sharing. So immediate supervisors and line managers are the chief emotional drivers in the workplace. So remember when we started way back in the beginning, we spoke about all those negative emotions that are showing up in the workplace. We are the chief emotional drivers. Reactions to us explain, look at this number, 84% of how employees feel about the organization. Wow. Supervisors and line managers who make employees feel inspired, enthusiastic, happy, and excited, they drive engagement. While those who make their employees feel insulted, upset, irritated, overlooked, they have the exact opposite effect. Superstructure. Final thing is to put the roof on our superstructure, and that's employee satisfaction. Okay? Our employees are satisfied when they feel fulfilled, when they feel comfortable in their current positions. Well, remember, before that, you got to have the psychological safety, you have to have the engagement. No, it's hurricane season, all right? We know prevention better than cure. So we need to check our roof frequently to ensure that it's in good condition, rather than wait till it blow off and say, oh gosh, I should have. How do we do that? Pulse surveys, state interviews, the accountability piece, that we hold ourselves and other managers accountable for employee satisfaction. That's how we get the superstructure in place and maintain it. So to recap the model, your foundation needs to be there, it needs to be solid. And then once you have that solid foundation, you layer on the psychological safety, the employee engagement, and you check for employee satisfaction to ensure that you have what you need, not just to create the engagement, but to sustain it. And I told you Eldon Blackman is on with us. Eldon is a whiz at coming up with acronyms. And I told him I need an acronym for your. And so thanks for Eldon. I'm telling you to mind your business. And what do I mean by that? What you do in your quest to create and sustain employee engagement is a yardstick for your credibility as a leader. It's an omen for your authenticity, because if you're faking it, your people will see, and it will damage your credibility. Through bringing to light everything that you've heard and we've discussed here today, you unveil your influence, not just on your immediate direct reports, but you will cast a shadow, because people will start to notice that there's something different, something special happening in your team, something that they want to emulate. And in doing so, you will be showing the results of your leadership, and you will be claiming all those gains that we looked at when we looked at the top 25% versus the bottom 25%. So mind your business. This is your business. So I've given you a lot to think about, I hope. But I want you to go beyond just thinking about it, because it's action that will change things. And so we're at the call to action. And you've already started weighing in here. So if you haven't yet, go ahead. This is the final question, I think. And let's start looking at what the commitment, and remember, accountability. So I'm asking you for a commitment, and then with your commitment, I need you to find an accountability partner and come up with an accountability framework to ensure that you deliver on this action. So our first commitment, to do more to ensure employees are engaged. Specifically, what are you going to do? Get with your accountability partner and be more specific, get more granular on this. You're going to foster relationship, focus on empathy. All right. I mentioned in my book, one of the chapters is devoted to relationship building blocks, and empathy is one such building block. Okay. Developing greater engagement activity. So think about it, reflect on it, and come up with some specific activities that you can then commit to implementing. I will focus on creating more opportunities for open dialogue and feedback within the team to foster a stronger sense of engagement and ownership. This will involve, okay, so we have, I love the level of detail because it tells me you're really thinking about how you're going to make this happen. All right. Find creative ways to communicate with staff, such as line activities, staff newsletter, etc. I'm going to come work early and tell my supervisor to be more engaging. Stop being stuck up. Lead from where you are. So yes, you can lead up and you can lead down. Excellent. All right. Want to manage communication. Be more engaged myself. Good for you. Actively be aware of the level of employee engagement. Yes, and you could have your organization participate in the Gallup employee engagement poll, or there are other tools that you can use, but you need to measure it. All right. And hold managers accountable for it. Going to endeavor to allow employees to feel engaged. Okay. Put some meat on those bones. Get specific. Change the mindset in how I do things and the relationship with employees. Absolutely. All right. Be more deliberate with engagement activities that correlates with business objective. Yes. So this is not some touchy-feely thing that those HR people with their soft self dealing with. These things have hardcore business impact. Be a coach instead of a boss to engage the team. All right then. Pass on the knowledge and not keep it to myself. Good. Balance employee engagement and relationship building with employees while achieving team and organizational goals. Yes. So remember that 2x2 matrix that I showed you there with performance versus psychological safety. It's not either or, it's and. Going to write my supervisor an email regarding the outcomes of this presentation and the implications for staff. All right then. I'm going to find the influencers in my organization so that we all can spread the wealth. Oh, I love that. It only takes one committed, motivated person to start a movement. Others will follow you. Okay, so go ahead, build your crew and move forward. All right, so if you haven't yet weighed in, I do encourage you to go ahead and do so. Again, if you didn't get the QR code at the top of the screen, you can access it using the URL, menti.com, and you have the code there that will enable you to get into the poll. All right, so recap. We looked at the current levels of engagement, both in Jamaica and globally. We explored the primary drivers of employee engagement. We explained why it's your business. And we challenge you to respond to the call to action, to decide what you are going to do based on what you've learned, what you've heard, what you've shared here today. So, Andrea, do we have time for additional engagement?
I'm going to be just asking the group for 10 more minutes of your time. I think there may be some burning questions and we would want to accommodate those.
Okay.
So at this time, maybe we can take 2 or 3 questions. Just ask persons to raise your hand and we will, accommodate a few questions.
Okay.
We close. All right. So if you have a question, please raise your hands quickly so we can take your questions. All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Prudence Barnes. I just wanted you to speak a little bit more on that slide after the roof. I kind of missed the essence of it. I'm not sure if you can go back a little bit.
This one?
No, the one. Yes, this one.
Okay. So what we're saying here is that if you want to secure and maintain engagement and all the good stuff that flows from engagement, you have to be actively engaged in an ongoing way. You need to be conducting pulse surveys to see where your people are, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. You need to be having your one-on-ones, stay interviews. We usually have exit interviews when all people tell us they're leaving. Why we only want to talk to people when they're leaving? Why do we don't want to talk to them while they're still there? Okay?
Yeah.
And hold your managers accountable. Right? Remember, 70% of engagement is contingent on the manager. Right? So is employee engagement part of your performance management system? If not, it should be. So that's what this slide is meant to convey.
So these are prevention strategies.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Prevention and maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? Okay. Go ahead, Lily. Please unmute, Lily. All right, Lily, please unmute your mic. You were given permission to do so. All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Lilith, your mic is open. All right, we're not hearing her, so let's move to the next person. Go ahead, Katie.
Hello?
Yes, we're here.
Morning. I just wanted to say quickly, I have a managing director who is very engaging. And this is the person who might have been asking, about that line between being friendly, without being friends and whatever the case is. Now, there's a line which exists between our managing director and us who are lower level staff, but he never necessarily makes us feel as though we're beneath him. He pays attention to how we're feeling. He's very observant, and he genuinely asks questions about how our day is going, and he pays attention to the things we tell him. One example I want to give is there was a day he came to the office, he noticed that I was not looking myself. He asked me a question and I explained to him that I was in pain and what was happening. Something as simple as recommending a specialist for me to go to went a long way in him showing me that he saw me and was acknowledging what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
To add to that, he then followed up with me, say a month later, and asked if I had been able to attend and how I was feeling. It doesn't necessarily make us friends, but it shows me that he cares. So that level of emotional intelligence, that level of interest, and he might not even genuinely be 100% interested, but psychology of his attention and the way he went about it gives even that slightest perception that he cares what his staff is dealing with. And he followed up, which indicates that he understands that if I'm not well, he can't get the best out of me. So just wanted to add that nugget.
Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing that.
All right. One last question. If we'll take just one question.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Staple Chambers, can you go ahead, please? All right, the hand is up, but I'm not hearing anything.
All right, so we are at the end of what I would describe as an excellent webinar, excellent presentation, and really excellent participation from those of you who are here, those we had time to accommodate. So let me, on behalf of MIND, thank you, Dr. Ambassador Underwood, for making this presentation come alive. All of us would have, should be convinced that the matter of employee engagement is our business. I think you made that very clear. And you provided key takeaways which can help us to enhance the engagement of our own team. So thank you so much for this presentation, Joan. And to all of you now who have joined us, whether from Jamaica, from anywhere else in the world, we're really happy that you joined us. And we appreciate the questions that you asked and also your comments. I was really inspired by the actions that you gave, the steps that you will take. And I really want to encourage you to follow through on those actions. And I know that we would have planted some positive seeds, because if all these seeds continue to grow, then definitely when we have another Gallup poll, then the results should be different.